you know, shall we say, very peachy clean when we pass through the gate of death. However, the fact of the matter is that if we haven't made the correct preparations in this time when we are on earth between life and death, I mean birth and death, we don't know anything that happens between death and rebirth. Not only that, we can't change anything. One of the characteristics, chief features of our life. See, the thing is, it's not a passage. It's not a journey in the sense, you know, like when we journey on the earth, we walk across or we drive across the country. That's what we refer to as a journey. We take a walk or we take a drive. It's not like that. What happens is that, first of all, after we pass through the gate of death, it's called passing through the gate of death. We first of all shed our physical body. And then after about 3 days, we shed our etheric body. Our etheric body merges with the world ether. And then we go through a period which approximately equals the time we have spent asleep during the, in fact it's probably not even approximate, it's exactly how many hours we spent asleep between being born and dying. That is how much time we spend in this first period, which is called Kama Loka, K-A-M-A-L-O-C-A.
One word?
Yeah, one word, Kama Loka. And the essential characteristics of Kama Loka, number one, is that we experience in a picture form, like a mighty tableau, our life as we experienced, not as we experienced it, as people who we encountered experience what we did to them. In reverse order, from the time we die till the time is up for Kama Loka. That's one thing that happens. So in other words, every encounter we've had with another human being, for good or ill, is dramatically portrayed to us, and we not only see what event, what action we had with that other person or persons, we feel what they were feeling at the time, and we know what they were thinking at the time that it occurred. So, and this is all meticulously portrayed to us, so to speak. So we are in no way, shape or form unable to not be truthful about what we did to other people during that whole time. That's one of the things that happens in Kama Loka. And now, when we pass through the gate of death, our astral body, you know, because we've discarded the etheric body, and we've discarded the physical body, that's the physical body, not the spiritual physical body. He doesn't say anything about. And I have mentioned this before, and I'm kicking myself still for doing this. I came across, in a totally different lecture series, Steiner talking about what happens to the spiritual physical body, and it just sailed right by me. You know, it's like, why I let that happen, I don't know. But I did. And of course I can't remember which lecture series it was in. So I'm hoping I'll be able to find it again at some point. But it was very important, I know that. Now, the other thing is that we have a physical body and we have an astral body. Now, it's in the astral body that we have all our passions, our desires, our appetites, and our wishes and so forth. And a lot of those need the instrument of the physical body to be able to be satisfied, like food, sex, you know, whatever, Mac mansions, all the, you know, stuff that has to do with living in the material world. And if we don't have a physical body, we have no means of satisfying those. So what happens during the time of Karmaloka is that everything that has to do with our entanglements with earthly affairs is gradually removed, if at all possible. In other words, it depends to the degree in which we have entangled ourselves in earthly affairs, whether or not we can actually completely and utterly, shall we say, purge ourselves of all those desires and passions and wants and etc., etc. And if we cannot, we feel the desire as a burning flame. That's how we feel it. It's not a very pleasant experience. Now, the other thing about life between death and rebirth is our astral body expands. And actually we do this every night when we go to sleep. Because sleep consists of the condition of lying on the bed, and when we fall asleep, what that actually signifies is our astral body and our ego leave, and what's left on the bed is our etheric and physical bodies. And we go through this similar, except of course a lot quicker, shall we say, experience as we do when we die. Like it's not for no reason that death is known as the big sleep. There was a famous detective, right? What was his name? Raymond Chandler. Philip Marlowe was the detective. Raymond Chandler was the author, and he wrote a book called The Big Sleep. You know, it's one of these what you would call a literary version of a film noir, and it was made into a film noir. I think what's his name was in it? Bogart. Right?
Yeah,
Humphrey
so.
Bogart, right? It was a good movie. I saw it. At any rate, so what we do is we expand. And we expand through the entire planetary spheres. So when you look at the orbit of the moon, that's as far as our astral body expands during the passage of Kamaloka.
The moon?
The
orbit of the moon?
Or the physical orbit of the moon, when we look at the moon, that's just a physical representation of the moon being's sphere of influence, which is the actual orbit itself. They're moon beings there. And then we go to the next one. Now, esoterically, or from the point of view of occult knowledge, what we call Venus is actually Mercury. That's the next one. Now, when we go to Mercury, so I'll just go through the sequence. We go through Mercury, next to the sphere of Mercury, the sphere of Venus, then the sphere of the Sun, then the sphere of the Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn, and then finally to the starry firmament, you know, the fixed stars, which are beyond the planets. And we literally expand to gigantic cosmic proportions. And everybody does.
When you sleep?
Yeah.
When you die?
Both.
Both.
And the interesting thing is, you see, is we all interpenetrate each other when we're going through this expansion. We all interpenetrate each other, but we only, first of all, in order to have a transition through, or shall we say, I don't want to use the word journey, because it just gives the wrong impression.
It's like a journey has a beginning and an end.
It's just, I'm just going to call it a passage. passage, because we expand. In order for us to have an experience during our time between death and rebirth, as souls who can communicate spiritually with other souls, including spiritual beings belonging to the hierarchies who are, shall we say, the inhabitants of the Mars sphere, the Moon sphere, etc., we have to have acquired certain, shall we say, attitudes during our time between birth and death. Now, in order to, and if we don't, we go through those spheres as lonely souls, as hermits, and we are completely cut off from any communication with any other soul. Now, the other characteristic is that if we're going to encounter souls who, during the passage between death and rebirth, the only ones we can encounter are those people that we've had connections with during our time between birth and death. That's the only people we can encounter. So during the course of our time between being born and dying, we have many, many social interactions with one another. You know, like this tonight is a case in point. We have girlfriends, we have boyfriends, we have teachers, we have schoolmates, we have workmates, we have all kinds of, literally thousands in most cases. When we look at our lives from the time we are, say, 7 years old, we started to go to school. From that time on, we encounter literally thousands of individuals. And some of them we have a closer connection than we do with others. We have, shall we say, stronger karmic connections with. Because actually everybody we meet during the course between our birth and our death are karmic encounters for the most part. They're not whimsical or random. You know, these are people that we've had connections with in previous lives. And in some cases the connections are such, as will become apparent, that we need to make recompense to these people because we injured them in a past life.
And Corey, do you think that sometimes that it takes more than one life to make recompense? It's
Yeah, I'm going to give you some specific examples. I just wanted to kind of do an overview here. But yeah, definitely. Might take 2 or 3. You know.
Is there any divinity in all of this scenario? In other words, are
The whole
lives...
thing is divine.
No, but I mean, what I meant to say, I don't know if I can articulate it, but are our lives intentional, or are how much control do we have over this earthly plane? As you know, who we meet, if someone meets us, or you know.
Total.
Do we have total control, or it is maybe some kind of a divine thing where somebody's put in your path, or something?
No, we have complete control. I'll give you an example from Steiner of what he meant when he said we are karmically responsible for everything happens to us. He says you're walking one night, you decide to take a stroll at 10 p.m. and you're walking past a hedge and an axe comes over that hedge and cuts your head off. He says, in very truth, your hand wielded that axe.
Strange.
So, see, we live in a time. What?
You just said that it's all about divinity. I was driving last week, and I was driving down a road that I usually drive on with such a habit, and I don't know, I want to say I was driving really fast, but I was just most